Coming up on this episode. Hello again, Wingmen. This is Tallymouse. It's early December and I'm flying over the Lake District in northwest England in my Just Flight British Aerospace Hawk T1, and I'm looking at the majesty of the Northern English winter wonderland below me. I've just finished flying 3 very scenic routes located within low-flying area number 17, which is an area rich in famous landmarks, rugged mountains, and the houses of world-renowned authors and poets. I'll break these 3 routes into 3 episode parts, and we'll begin with Wastwater to Buttermere. This is a long video, but please stick with me as there's some great flying and scenery ahead. Below me to my left is Coniston Water, where the British hero and speed demon Donald Campbell sadly met his untimely death on the 4th of January 1967 while attempting a world water speed record in his Bluebird K7.
Can't see anything. Hello, the bow's up. I'm going. Oh bugger!
Below me to my right is Windermere with Ambleside at its northern tip and Bowness halfway up on the eastern shore in sight of the islands in the middle of the lake. Windermere was home to Beatrix Potter, who was already creating talking animals about the time Walt Disney was born, whereas nearby Grasmere was home to the poet William Wordsworth. So how do you get here? Departing runway 01 at RAF Valley, head northeast or 45 degrees for 67 miles until you reach the southern part of Walney Island located on the western shores of Morecambe Bay. We shall use this point as a datum for further navigation. We'll call it EGU Wharton. All low-level routes through LFA 17 are typically south to north to aid deconfliction with other users of the low-level environment. Our first route in this 3-part episode will take us up the coast at bearing 337 for 20 miles to the Ravensglass estuary. We'll then turn bearing 042 for 6 miles while we make our descent and entry into low level, intersecting the southwestern tip of Wastwater. We'll maintain over 1,000 feet as we cross over the coastline and the estuary due to potential bird activity, and then we'll complete our descent into low level. After flying over Wastwater, we'll turn a hard left and climb up Mossdale with Kirk Fell to our right, then make a 5G overbank to clear Blacksail Pass, then crossing over Ennerdale while hopefully missing the haystacks, and then rapidly overbanking to the left to then drop down to and not into Buttermere. We'll then follow the valley, flying over Crummock Water and head due north before exiting low level just before we reach the town of Cockermouth. Yes, it's really called that. I'll explain the other 2 routes in parts 2 and 3 of this episode. So let's get to it. If you are enjoying this video so far, please remember to honk subscribe, click like, and flick the bell if you'd like to receive notifications about future videos. For those interested, all of my Microsoft Flight Simulator, NVIDIA, OpenXR, Pimax XR, and Pimax Play settings will be at the end of this video. As we come in over the Ravensglass estuary, we'll stay above 1,000 feet to provide deconfliction from birdlife that mostly inhabits the coastline. You will already have noticed that both my attitude indicators and backup instruments appear to be glitched. I didn't take off like this, but it is a bug associated with the way I am capturing the VR for this video, and will be fixed in future videos. However, we will proceed based on visual met conditions. Low-level environment in the UK is below 2,000 feet AGL, and as we continue our descent, we'll be switching our external lights on with anti-collision lights set white strobe to make ourselves as visible as possible. We will be shifting to VHF low-level common so we can make call-outs as we progress, and switching our transponder squawk to to 7001. That code, being UK specific, refers to a sudden military climb out of low-level operations. Side turn to the left, the weather looks clear, climbing up the valley now. We'll gain some height while we position for the overbank. Speed's coming up 480 knots. Banking 5G over the top, throttles back as we descend. We'll continue to roll through to a left-hand overbank. If I had a low height warner in this thing, I would have been resetting it by now. Throttle idle. Buttermere ahead, 400, 350, 300, level 250, feels good. This speed and altitude will be gulping through around 26 kilos of fuel per minute or around 3.5 kilos per mile, so we'll keep an eye on the fuel gauge as we reach a less dynamic point in our route, such as now. I think we'll go to the right of Scale Hill. In the valley to make sure it's clear, looking good for the pullout. With cockermouth on the nose, no pun intended, we'll start our climb out procedure, undoing everything we did during the descent to low level. Switching our external lights back to normal navigation, talking to air traffic control, and switching away from VHF low level common, and also reassigning our squawk away from 7001. Okay, let's get back to EGU Wharton.
Our second route in this three-part episode is much more scenic than the first, yet not quite as technical. We'll head for the peninsula located between the two estuaries of Ulverston, which is to the north of EGU Wharton, and Grangeover Sands to the right of the peninsula that juts out southward into Morecambe Bay. Follow the river that bisects the peninsula while making our descent into low level to intersect the southern tip of Windermere. We'll follow Windermere northwards to the northern end and then make a hard left turn at Ambleside, followed by a quick right over Grasmere. We'll follow the valley up to Thirlmere, which is popular with aviation videographers such as Rolf Johnson, links to his channel in the description below, and then take a left turn towards the town of Keswick, flying over Bassenthwaite Lake prior to exiting low level. So let's get to it.
As we come in over Morecambe Bay, we'll stay above 1,000 feet to provide deconfliction from the bird life that mostly inhabits the coastline. As we continue our descent, we'll be switching our external lights on with anti-collision lights set white strobe to make ourselves as visible as possible to other users of the low-level environment. We will be shifting to VHF low-level common so we can make call-outs as we progress, especially as the northern end of Windermere is popular with recreational airspace users, but that's unlikely in this weather, and we'll be switching our transponder squawk code to 7001, as that's the badge we'll be wearing in low level. That code, being UK specific, refers to a sudden military climb out of low level operations. We'll aim for 450 knots, which is 7.5 miles a minute, and we'll achieve that by hovering around 92 to 93% RPM. Weather looks clear, coming into Windermere at this time. 350, 300, level 250. Fuel check, fuel good. You have to be careful when flying over flat water, especially lakes, and especially when there is little wind, as the reflection leads to an absence of a sense of height. And if you're not careful, the next thing you know, your nostrils will be getting rapidly pressurized with high velocity water and canopy fragments. Maintaining speed 450 knots, fuel good. Bowness on the right, crossing over Bell Island, which was the inspiration for Arthur Ransom's Swallow and Amazon's book series. We'll bank left to follow Windermere up to Ambleside. On the right, you can just see the peaks above Troutbeck dusted in snow. Troutbeck will feature in part 3 of this episode. The weather ahead looks ominous, but we can still see sky, so we can climb out if we need to. Let's push on. The surface of Windermere is at 127 feet, so maintaining an indicated altitude of 400 feet places us just above 250 feet over ground. Ambleside on the nose, preparing for the turn, on with the power. Hard left, following the A591. Docky Tarn and then Grasmere, overbanking now, following the valley and road upwards towards Thirlmere. Weather looks passable, fuel good, keeping the entrance in the middle of my canopy. Nosing down into Thirlmere, speed good, level 250. The altitude of Thirlmere is 584 feet, so I will try to maintain 900 feet barometric so I can be sure that I have 250 feet below me. Banking now to go east of Great Howe. How pretty is this? The clarity of what I'm seeing through my Pimax crystal is absolutely astonishing. It's like having 2.5 49-inch widescreen monitors stacked on top of each other that are always in front of your face wherever you look. If you'd like to buy one for yourself, you can use the link in the description below. Remember to use coupon code TALLYMOUSE at the checkout for a delicious discount. Derwent water to the left. You can hear the clattering, rushing sound of the air over the airframe as I'm approaching 490 knots. Glancing down, I see that to be the case. Throttle back. Bassenthwaite Lake, preparing for climb out. Fuel good, weather good, valley clear. Looking good for the pullout. Starting our climb out procedure, undoing everything we did during the descent to low level. Switching external lights back to normal navigation, talking to air traffic and switching away from VHF low-level common and reassigning our squawk away from 7001. Okay, let's get back to EGU Wharton.
As you already know the route from EGU Wharton to Windermere from part 2, we'll pick up as we enter the southern part of Windermere. We'll follow Windermere northwards to the islands located in the lake adjacent to Bowness. We'll then follow Troutbeck up the valley and to the right of Troutbeck Tongue, and then over the high mountain saddle to the left of Northwaite Crag before dropping down the valley to the village of Hartsop, and then Glenridding at the southern tip of Ullswater. Ullswater is popular with aviation videographers such as DPR Images, links to their channel in the description below. We'll then follow Ullswater to Pooley Bridge at the northern end of the lake and climb out with the town of Penrith on our nose, and then head back to Valley for a nice slice of parkin and a glass of milk. So let's get to it, shall we? To not bore you with repetition, we'll pick up as we enter Windermere.
350, 300, level 250, fuel good. The surface of Windermere is at 127 feet, so maintaining an indicated altitude of 400 feet places us just above 250 feet over ground. As we're in low level, I have anti-collision lights set to white strobe, we're on VHF low level common, and we have the squawk code set to 7001 in case we have an engine failure and we need to climb out rapidly. Okay, fuel looks good, weather looks good. You can see Bell Island coming up, so we'll bank to bearing 005 to follow Troutbeck. The weather is a bit concerning. We will not follow the obvious road route to the left of the valley due to the weather and the wind turbines that have been placed in the pass. Clearing up, Troutbeck tongue ahead, fuel good, climbing the valley. Turning to line up to the right of the tongue. That's the tongue to our left, Thornthwaite saddle ahead. The saddle just below the middle of my canopy, lining up for the overbank. We're banking now, back on the throttle. Throttle 50%, lining up for the right turn. Glenridding on the nose, fuel good, weather good. Entering Allswater now, 300 feet. Level 250. Rolling out. At 450 knots, if we were to experience an engine failure, we'd have enough energy to pull 45 degrees nose up and make 9 to 10,000 feet, from where we'd have 17 to 18 miles of glide slope to either relight the engine or plan for recovery at the nearest airstrip, which is probably Walney Aerodrome or Echo Golf November Lima, with their two 1,000 meter long runways. Coolie bridge to the right, preparing for climb out. Fuel good, weather good, valley clear, looking good for the pull-out. Starting our climb out procedure, undoing everything we did during the descent to low level. Switching our external lights back to normal navigation, talking to air traffic, and switching away from VHF low level, and reassigning our squawk away from 7001. Didn't include the obvious M6 pass route, as it's a lot of work for basically 8 seconds of fun. Hope you enjoyed flying this third and final route with me in LFA 17. As promised, my NVIDIA, Pimax Play, OpenXR, Pimax XR, and Microsoft Flight Simulator settings are coming up for your viewing pleasure. Until next time, Wingmen.